Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is Steve Cleveland as we shift our attention back to BYU basketball now after we learned that Nick Emery is foregoing his senior year of eligibility and essentially retiring from basketball. Coach, welcome back to the show. Let's start with this. What was your initial reaction to hearing Nick Emery will not play his final year of basketball at BYU?
Well, I was surprised because I had watched him in practice and saw how committed he was, but I also understand it, in terms of his life. The last couple of years not been easy. There's been some challenges, and it's been kind of an emotional roller coaster. And I think from the perspective of basketball, I know it's something that he loves, and I think he could have made significant contributions, but he's a young man that's been through a lot, and I think he's had good mentors, and I think he feels like, you know what, this is the time for me to step away and focus on my new family and getting on with my life. So I respect him for it. He's taking ownership in it, and he'll be missed. But the Cougs will move on, and I think there's lots of depth in this team to make up for his loss.
Let's just talk about on the court. What's the legacy of Nick Emery? Because we have had a few, weird things that affected on the court. Obviously, the Brandon Taylor incident at Utah and the NCAA violations. Yet, this is a guy that made 97 threes as a freshman and was a really good on-ball defender. Wasn't quite the same guy after his freshman year. And I was hoping to see that freshman Nick, his senior year now, re-energized. But what do you think the legacy of Nick Emery on the court is?
You know what? I think the legacy is going to be the fact that here's a young man that lived a really public life, went through some significant challenges, and got through it all. And we know what his ability was and how great he was as a freshman and what we were hopeful this year. But I think more than anything that when people see others go through difficult times and take ownership for it and work through it and are successful and move on, you have great respect. And that's what I'll respect. And I think that's what everybody respects. Anybody that knows Nick is not thinking back on that day at Utah or any other event or whatever took place with the NCAA. People make mistakes. And he took ownership for it. He moved on. He's a better person for it today. I think he's in better health mentally and emotionally and physically. And I think he's got a new family. Those are the things I'm going to remember him for. Certainly, he had a sweet jumper. He played with great intensity and energy. A tough young man on the floor and competed all the time. So I remember those things. But outside of basketball, those are the other things that really mean the most to me.
Talking with former BYU basketball head coach Steve Cleveland, if you had a one-on-one conversation with Nick right now, what would you say to him?
I would tell him, number one, that I would thank him. I would thank him for his effort. I would thank him for his attitude, for his humility, for his willingness to change and make changes in his life. And I would tell him to move on because the best part of his life is in front of him. Love his wife and his family, and those are the important things. And so he knows that. He understands that. That's why he stepped away. He knew what was best for him and for his family. So I would congratulate him on making good decisions and wish him well and hope that he'll be able to, whatever he's going to pursue professionally or anywhere else in his life, we wish him the best of luck.
This move does put the BYU coaching staff in a bit of a pinch going into this next season. Had it been in, say, April, it's different than July 24th. At this point, it's highly unlikely that BYU gets a player that contributes in a meaningful way going into the season. So do you think BYU has to go that route, or do they find a guy to, say, replace TJ Haas that has to redshirt and sit out a transfer?
I'm not sure where they are in terms of recruiting because I haven't talked to the staff about that. But I think they have a lot more depth. I mean, just getting Jake Toulson at 6'5" to come in, player of the year in the WAC, he kind of fills a void really quickly. Jesse Wade, who hasn't played here, but has been in a really good Gonzaga program that can shoot the three. And I think another young man that can certainly play the guard position, not necessarily like Nick, but I think Connor Harding is going to be a young man that is a player of the future here. And with TJ, with Jake, there's plenty of players here. There's no question that they'll miss Nick, but I think they have the depth. Celius and Nixon are both coming back after kind of so-so years. They're going to be focused. You got a new coaching staff. I think Nick's loss won't be that significant. It just gives the other players an opportunity to step up. They got a couple of young players But I think with Toulson and Wade stepping in, they can fill that void quite easily.
Coach, is it fair to expect BYU to make the NCAA tournament this season with the latest roster shakeup?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the coaching staff's goal is. I do. I mean, you look at their schedule, they've got a lot of home games now against Vegas, San Diego State, UNR, teams that they had to go on the road. They've got a great schedule. They got the Maui tournament. All of the indexes, all the analytics for how we evaluate a team to go to the tournament, they've got a great schedule in place. They have returning about 75 or 80% of all the statistics, offensively, defensively, free throws. I mean, they got a lot of people back. So there should be great optimism. And you got a new staff, which always brings great optimism and a new approach. So this team's prepared to get to the NCAA tournament. And Gonzaga is going to always be good. But I promise you that this is not the Gonzaga team of the last 2 years. I mean, Tilly and Peterson and Kispert, Gilder, they're all good players, and they're going to have a great year. But it's not what it's been in the past. St. Mary's does return their whole team, but, BYU can compete and beat them. So I think this is a great opportunity for BYU to step up to the NCAA tournament. But there might even be a WCC championship available. It's not like Gonzaga has Final Four talent. They've had it for a long time, but they've taken a little bit of a dip. I know that they'll still win 25 games and be in the tournament, but I just do not believe it's going to be the same Gonzaga team we've seen the last 2 or 3 years.
Do you feel like that that opportunity will manifest itself in the regular season race or primarily in Vegas, like last year where St. Mary's beat Gonzaga?
No. I think that things are – you're taking a look at Pepperdine, USF, Santa Clara, Loyola, all pretty solid teams in the middle of this league. BYU, St. Mary's, Gonzaga have the talent and the experience. Bottom half of the league's not great, but this is a league that BYU can win. I mean, and I'm not trying to put pressure on anybody, but there's enough talent there, and there has been enough attrition at the Gonzaga that they're meeting each other somewhere in the middle now. And certainly, let's not discount St. Mary's because they beat Gonzaga, this same team who was just outstanding, and Randy Bennett does a great job. But I think it'll be a 3-horse race again, and Pepperdine, being a team that got some experience in the tournament, is a dangerous team. But I still feel it'll be the top 3. But I think BYU steps up here. Having Yoli come back and having Toulson and Wade, guys being a year older, Connor Harding being a year older, I think this is going to be a really, really good basketball team. And I know the coaching staff will be unbelievably prepared, high energy, and we'll have these guys really accountable and focused on what's going on. So I think the combination of both makes it I think the future is bright for BYU this year. I don't have the blue goggles on here. I'm being very realistic. They can have a really good year. Barring no injuries and other situations, I think it's going to be a really good basketball team.
We're with you on the excited about this team train. In fact, the day that, Yoli Childs came back and we knew Jake Toulson was there, we said, this team's going to the tournament. Like, we think this is tournament good. It is interesting to see, though. Let's look at this. This is a 19-win team that did make the NIT last year. They add Jake Toulson, essentially, and they have a new coaching staff. Yet we expect this big improvement. Is that mainly because of the coaching staff? Because it's the roster plus Jake Toulson?
Well, here's the other thing. Gavin Baxter and Connor Harding were young players last year. They are going to be substantially better this year. So the improvement level of those 2 players alone is going to be huge. TJ Hodge, a senior, he'll take it to a next level. Yoli is going to be really committed. So, and I expect Sellius and Nixon to really come out. I think with this new coaching staff that there'll be a great deal of energy. So I think that the team individually gets better, then collectively the sum of their parts gets better as well, just through the experience. And I don't know defensively and offensively what they're going to do. I don't think it's going to be that earth-shakingly different. I do think there's going to be a different energy and a commitment than maybe there was last year with the new staff. You always have that. So I think that, having Nick would be wonderful. But at the end of the day, he's not there. He's moved on. And there are enough people to fill the holes and have a great team this year. And the schedule at home is solid. Obviously, the Maui Classic is a tough way to start. But I'm not, UCLA is kind of rebuilding as well. So it's a neutral court. Things happen. You never know. So, but again, when you look at their at the year as a whole, and you look at their scheduling and the index of their schedule and who they play and where they play, this is a schedule that is preparing this team to be in the NCAA tournament. It meets all the criteria. You'll look back and say, well, what a great schedule on the road, neutral sites, playing top 20, top 50 teams. So the schedule sets them up, if they play well, even win or lose, to put themselves in a position to get to the tournament.
Coach, it's great to talk to you. You bring up some fantastic points. Let's do it again soon, shall we?
All right, take care, guys.
You
Bye-bye.
got it. Steve Cleveland on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, you know why, we show how.